Welcome to Casual Interactions Podcast with Frank, Sean, and Hambone. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Great.
I got the Strength and Beauty mug. Did you notice that?
I have a Superman one.
Yeah.
I got the coffee makes you poop mug.
Which is, that's a universal. That's a universal truth mug, I think.
It's like a truth bomb mug.
Yeah, I like that.
That makes you go. So we wrapped up episode 3, which is pretty much, I think, all we really have to say on a band that went absolutely nowhere.
That's the thing, man. I can't believe we got that far with it.
Anything you want to wrap up?
I don't think so. I feel like I thought it was, I was like, oh, wow, like that was actually entertaining. It was probably more entertaining than actually living
Oh,
it.
you know, I actually thought of something.
Oh, what you got?
I thought it might be interesting to talk about how Hambone got the name Hambone.
Oh my God.
Because that's not his actual name.
Well,
In case you were wondering.
He was not
in
born
fairness, I've
as
been
a Hambone.
Hambone
Right.
for almost as long as I've been John McGuire.
So here's the thing. It started on a long trip down the shore.
To Atlantic City. But here's the question I have. What the fuck were we doing in Atlantic City? That I have no idea. Why the hell were we going to Atlantic City?
So
We had no money. Do we just have,
No.
No, we were underage.
we're really doing this? We're gonna tell the story?
Do you know?
Do you know the story?
Do you know the story?
Oh, I know the story.
Oh, please tell the story then.
Is it a bad
Yeah,
story?
I definitely came here like thinking that we weren't going to do any more
Listen,
origin.
we don't have to do this.
Not well.
If you don't
now we
want to.
do. Now.
I just thought it might be interesting.
All right. Well,
All right, so-
even if it doesn't make it, I'd like to know because I don't
So
remember.
what the story is that
Just
I
tell Frank.
was...
Just text Frank.
We were
Just
all...
whisper it to me. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just whisper it. I'm gonna whisper
Okay.
it. We were all underage.
Right.
And we rented a condo in Absecon. Now, this is before you could do that home away. This is before, like, you could just go on your phone and, like, find a cabin in the woods and rent it for the weekend for, like, a sexy getaway. We, for some reason, rented...
murder.
Or murder. Hey,
Right.
Who has a sexy getaway in the cabin in the fucking woods?
clearly not murderers. Clearly.
Wait, all right. No.
People do that, don't they?
I
don't know. I've never done it.
Yeah.
Hamon's done it.
Hambone
done it.
Well,
apparently
if
does
you
that.
call a sexy getaway in the woods, playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and eating a lot of barbecue, then yeah,
a
I'm here for it.
sexless getaway.
We walked that back.
It,
It's a sexless getaway.
Got it.
So we did this thing where I don't even know why we rented it, but we rented it for New Year's Eve, and everyone was down there.
Oh my God, I remember that. All right. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, everyone was down
I
there.
remember who Hambone was dating at the time.
I do.
You don't?
I do.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
There's a certain layer of mystery that needs to be left on this
Got it.
story.
No, yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
So,
Real quick though, she was into witchcraft, right?
She was a witch.
allegedly.
All right, got it. All
And,
right.
then she gave Hambone a bath.
No, that was a different girl, and that was a Christmas card. So,
Okay. All right.
Jesus Christ, I'm so happy a lot of this
I
stuff
like that
happened
shit floods
pre-internet.
back on the air. All right, go ahead.
So we went down there with a whole bunch of our friends, and everyone got like obliterated. Me more than anybody else. Everyone had a few pops too many, and I ended up naked in front of the fridge, and it was completely dark in the room. Now, if you've ever seen the end of the movie The Lost Boys, where the grandfather finally kills the head vampire, he comes home and it's completely dark in there, and he opens up the fridge and the light envelops the room. That essentially was the kitchen in this shitty apartment that we rented in Absecon, New Jersey. Now, for some reason, I'm naked, and I walk downstairs to go into the fridge, probably to get a sandwich.
Presumably out of the bath.
Presumably out of the bath. Different party, I'm telling you.
All right.
And I don't know. I went down there. Now, granted, back in the day, I was a little bit of a larger fellow. I was, probably close to about 3 bills at the time.
Really?
No, come on.
yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have thought that.
You wore it well then.
Thank you very much,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Stop
I'm just saying.
flattering me so much. So
Go tickle him.
Don't tickle. Stop. Hey, there's a line. So I went downstairs, presumably to get a sandwich or something. It's completely dark down there. I don't really know that anyone's down there because it's late at night. So I open up the fridge and I lean over into the fridge to get a sandwich. And a little voice from behind me says, "Hambone, get me a Coke." And I look up and I turn and there's Frank looking at my giant moon-like ass glowing from the light of the refrigerator. And it's the kind of thing that happens when someone says a name in your direction, and if you look, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. So here we are, 20-something years later, and I'm still Hambone.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
That's how it happened.
Just because all I wanted was a Pepsi.
Yeah, just one Pepsi. And then that nickname stuck.
Right, yeah.
For 20 years.
Holy shit.
But no, but you know what? It turned into something to the point where, now we are almost 40, or I am, because I'm a little bit older. How much older
Are you 40?
I'm going to be 40 next year.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm rounding up at this point, like 39, 4 months from now, I'll be 40. We're good. So it's cool because now, like, people know me as Hambone, like, everywhere.
Well, you took that and ran with it,
Well,
too.
of course I ran with it. I had to. When you have a nickname like Hambone, you kind of just, there's two ways you can go with it: into hiding or
All
ever
right.
forward.
I'm gonna interject because the way I remember it
Right.
was we were in the car
Yeah.
on the way down.
This is
to the
what
show.
I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sean and I were for some reason in the back seat. No one was in the front seat but you. You were driving.
So I was driving.
You were driving
too.
like chauffeur.
But wasn't his girlfriend with him?
That could
And
that-
they went into a rest stop?
right now the front passenger seat is just is blurry.
Maybe
it's just a
maybe
blur
it's blurry.
Yeah.
in my memory. I don't know. But it could have been a spell.
That's why I can't see it.
It might have been. But
Oh,
what I remember was we were in the back seat and we were talking and we were like, you can't give yourself a nickname. And
right.
how is it in these movies, like these people have these amazing nicknames?
Yeah.
Like, all these things. And we were like, we got to give John a nickname.
Yes,
Because
yes.
people would call you John McGuire Superstar. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
All right, that was like the original nickname because you knew everybody.
But I did not give myself that nickname.
No, you didn't.
You can't give yourself a
You
nickname.
can't give yourself a nickname. And we're like, that's like, I don't know. That sounds, first off, it's long.
Like
very
Jesus
long.
Christ.
It sounds like,
Superstar.
which
Yeah.
is where
And
I'm
him
sure it came
not
from.
Jesus.
So,
Certainly not.
so we were like, all right, well, Sean actually came up with the first one. And do you remember?
Horse
tool. Horse tool.
I don't remember.
You don't
any
remember?
of
All right,
that.
so
yeah.
So and we were like, no, we can't use that. And then I said Hambone.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And then you were like, no. And Sean was like, well, you have to pick one of them. And you were like, all right, well then Hambone. And that's how it started. And then maybe that night later on,
That's what happened.
I saw you naked and I was like, yo, Hambone, give me a Coke.
No, because that's the first, in my memory, the first instance.
Okay.
And I
But
looked.
the origin, if we're going origin
Right,
stories,
right.
was in the back seat. We were like, he needs a nickname because like he's larger than life, and you need that larger than life name.
Now, here's a question.
I was larger than
What
Charlie.
if he had picked Horse Tool? How would his life be different today?
Sean,
I
Sean,
think that
trust
would.
me.
Here's the thing. I
I'm
think
Irish.
that
I
would
could
have
never make horse
dissipated.
to a play.
I think that would have
Yeah,
dissipated.
you're right. That wouldn't have stuck.
I think it would have just been like, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Horse tool doesn't really hold. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
But like essentially, like you had either like large cock or Hambone, which is like this party animal nickname, and you chose the party animal.
And I ran with it.
Yeah, and then
I ran
you changed it
hard
to
with it.
Hambone King of Rock and Roll.
Yes.
And that's where it kind of took life.
Well, the reason why it went Hambone King of Rock and Roll, like I hated myself so much. Like I hated myself to the point where I just didn't want to be around. And I kind of was like, if I could be anybody else, then I don't want to die. Then I can make it. I could just be whoever else I could be. So that's why I kind of started up with the Hambone King of Rock and Roll thing. And I just kind of fully turned into that persona because I didn't want to live in my own skin. But then I lived a little too much Hambone King of Rock and Roll.
But that's the thing. Sometimes we can do that and we'll overcompensate so far
Yeah.
that it then turns like, because that's the thing is like those demons, right? The feeling of not being comfortable in your own skin, the anxiety and the depression and stuff like that. If those aren't dealt with, even if we like cover them up with like a band-aid of a persona or like
Right.
a stage show or writing, different things, like it's never going to be dealt with. It's just going to rear its head in different ways.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
and it certainly did. I mean, a lot of it though came out in my writing, and a lot of it came out in the kind of things I would kind of contribute to art and creativity. I mean, I think that's pretty much a good thing we could talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Is talk about art and creativity, like what drives you to write, like what makes you create. For me, when I started, I mean, it was all like teenage feelings, and like I grew up listening to like classic rock radio, and I just would dissect songs, and I would try to figure out how they did it, how they would write songs. Like I kind of understood a bridge before I knew how to play guitar.
Right.
So I would channel like the things that I was feeling on the surface levels into kind of like the songs I would write, which like half of which ended up on Heartbreak and Stereo. But how about you guys? Like, what is it that brings it out of you?
Well, I think it differs like from song to song and experience to experience. You know what I mean? I think at least for me, it's definitely a lot of life intimidates art. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you start to be like, all right, well, these are things that have happened to me, and I don't know how to deal with them
Right.
in real life. So how do I manufacture a way to kind of, you know, like when you have a conversation with somebody or a fight with somebody and you're like 2 days later, you're like, fuck, that's what I should have said.
Oh, yeah.
Like writing a song is the best way to do that.
Right.
is to create the perfect situation where you said everything you wanted to say and did everything you wanted to do. And, or you could retell it the way that it actually happened and be like, oh, this is how I fucked up.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, because, you know, putting them in a car and trying to get them to that right moment when they actually hear what you wrote about them, so you can, get them on the back end, it just never works. Dude, it's a long way to go for revenge.
But think about that. When you're thinking about it, like, oh, yeah, they're going to hear this and they're going to know. They never heard it.
No.
They never. But in your mind, you're like, there you go. That was the perfect comeback.
Yeah. I bet Warren Beatty never really heard You're So Vain. He just don't care. Because at that point, you know, that chick
he
made
heard
$1 million
it.
bucks.
Oh, he heard
I
it.
bet he did.
All right, so I actually wanted to ask you this because I feel like when we first met, you were very instrumental in, I guess, showing me a lot of different bands and getting me really kind of farther into punk rock and stuff like
Right.
that. 'Cause I grew up listening to, you know, classic rock and a lot of blues from my dad and stuff in that nature. And, you know, I think like a lot of people in my generation, like, you know, Nirvana hit, and then you would start to like read liner notes and be like, all right, well, Sub Pop, like find out about Mudhoney and find out about the Melvins and stuff like that, and kind of try to dig deeper and go into like Sonic Youth and do all the, you know, like that route. So I had that, you know, just from being a teenager in the 90s.
Right.
But then when we met, like you started making me mixtapes. So who got you into all the stuff that you were into and that you could pass along?
So, you know, for me, you know, growing up listening to NEW, growing up listening to classic rock, CBS 101, I remember listening to WNEW and hearing the Clash's London Calling and hearing them playing Lost in the Supermarket, you know, the hits,
Right.
the real baseline stuff. And then just, you know, seeing a Rolling Stone magazine lying around somewhere. Like I couldn't tell you even what issue it was or where it was, but I remember seeing it and seeing a picture of the Ramones. And, you know, back then before the internet, you had to do a lot of detective work if you wanted to be able to find the bands that you liked, or you wanted to be able to kind of get turned on to something. Like you actually had to do the legwork. So I just did. I went around and I was like looking for stuff and trying to find stuff. I had an older kid on my block and he was really into like Skinny Puppy. And, you know, I quickly realized that industrial music wasn't for me. But, you know, I would backtrack and I'd ride my bike places. Like, I mean, there was St. Mark's Records when it was over in Harrison. I used to ride my bike there and I would buy stuff. There was Let It Rock.
Let It Rock was,
you know,
huge.
Trying to find places. There was Two Tone and Passaic. Like there were places like these little oases where people who were into punk rock and into new wave and into alternative music could go and find something on a local level, because I mean you certainly weren't getting it at the shopping malls.
Yeah. Well, remember how hard it was to kind of like to break in, because when you would go to stores like that, like I remember like my first couple of experiences at Let It Rock, like it was so intimidating.
Oh yeah.
Like you weren't welcomed there. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh, hey, you don't know really much about this. Let me show you some stuff. You should have this record.
Which is
like,
a terrible business model to be mean to your
like,
customers.
Yeah, seriously. Like that dude did not want anyone in there. He had like a one-eyed cat. It was rough, dude. It was rough. And like I feel like too, correct me if I'm wrong, but like all the records had like real snarky like descriptions on them. Too, like you know, not as good as the Misfits, and then you go to the Misfits record and be like, this band sucks too. like that. I was like, oh, all right.
I got drunk one night and I was meaning to ask him because he owns a bar now, and I was in the bar and I was thinking to myself, shit, man, I gotta ask him, what do you like? Because, you know, I feel like at this point, after 40 years of like shopping in the store and like, you know, drinking in the bar, I paid to see it at this point, so I want to know.
Yeah.
My thing was I found all these.
He was
bands.
Probably like Creed.
He probably really does like Creed. Like it's like his dirty secret, you know. He actually wears like dad jeans. So I got in all these bands, and there was a Sam Goody in my town as well, which had some of the stuff. Like I got my first X tape there, and it was not the one I wanted, but it was the one they had, and that's what I did a lot of when I was younger. I bought a lot of tapes by the band, but like later era when they were on major labels, where it was like I had to buy it because that's the one they had and it's not the one I wanted. And then, but I knew about all these bands. So this dude Frank DiMaria moved into my block, and I heard him playing guitar in his house, and I just went up to his house and I just rang his doorbell.
Wow.
I'm like,
that takes balls.
I'm like 13, 14 years old. I mean, but have you met me, man? I just
You got the horse tools.
I got the horse tools.
That's what you. What do you
talents,
need to go knock
I got
on a
the
door?
horse
You need a
tools.
couple of tools from a horse.
Yeah. And he's like, hi. And I'm like, hey, I heard you playing guitar. You want to hang out? And I mean, I'm like 13, 14 years old, but I'm like, he lives in my neighborhood. What harm could come of this, kids?
Right,
Don't go
yeah.
and knock on strangers' doors nowadays.
Jesus.
Lots of harm could come of it. But this was a very long time ago. So we went up and he had all these tapes and he had all the tapes that I wanted.
Oh wow.
And he was like, here, man, you can borrow these tapes. And he's like, if you like want to just borrow them, he's like, just go to like the store and get like a box of blank tapes, just dub them. And he had like Husker Du, he had the Replacements, the Pixies, he had Camper Van Beethoven, like all the stuff that I've been reading about that I couldn't find anywhere was right there. And he was like, here, take it. So
shit.
I went, I got my mom to like drive me to like the Five and Dime, and I bought like a box of like 120-minute tapes, and I taped everything, and I wore every one of those tapes out.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
And that's how I got into the music I got
See, that's
into.
the thing, right? Like, I feel like with that type of situation where you kind of like you discover it, like you have this ownership over it,
Right.
That holy grail moment where things have been, passed down. It's almost like you've been handed the scrolls. You know what I mean? It's like, here, take this, son, and make something of it. And I feel like it sticks with you longer. Like, it's not like, oh, I just found this on, like a website or something, and I have like 16 discographies in my pocket, and I don't listen to any of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's like throwaway.
Music becomes disposable.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason you were able to eventually hear Jawbreaker when you was because my mom wouldn't let me go to New York to go to concerts. She thought like if I went to New York, I was gonna get murdered. So my friend Livia,
As opposed to hanging out with some guy down the street.
yeah, like, just walk in and knock on her neighbor's door. It's fine. My friend Livio, he would go to shows at Maxwell's, and her thing was, well, if you want to go to shows, you can go with him as long as you don't go to New York. But it was every show that you would have gotten in New York, you got at Maxwell's. Maxwell's in Hoboken, which is maybe like 15 minutes from my house. It was a small club, held about 180 people. I saw some of the best shows in my life there. Like I saw Jawbreaker there. I saw Face to Face there. I saw everyone who came through. And it was great. But that's how I got to see those bands. And then when we met in high school, I was able to kind of just be like, here, this is going to be your, I think, was it 24-Hour Revenge Therapy? I handed it to you. I said, this is going to be your favorite record.
Yes, and it immediately was. I think too, like those were the opportunities I got was going to the Pipeline with you and getting to see like Bouncing Souls and Weston and I think that was an aha moment for me at least too, because it was like finally like, these weren't bands like Jawbreaker or Black Flag or something like that, like bands that had like done it or were like legends of their time. Like this was like, oh wow, these bands live around us and they're doing it on a small scale, and I could do this kind of thing. And I think the Pipeline was like a really good bridge to go to local like VFW hall shows for me. And that was even like, holy shit, wait, I can go see these bands with like a can of soup? Like that's crazy, and like, and then to realize like it wasn't even an actual club or anything, like kids were putting the shows on. Yeah. And that was a fucking like, there was like somebody like shot me in the head with an opportunity gun, just kind of thing.
So Sean, how about you? What got you into music? Like where were you finding your music? Because you were actually on the other side of Clifton.
Yeah.
In a very different neighborhood.
Yeah. I think my first show was Felix Frump.
Shit.
As a freshman.
Nice.
Yeah, but me it came
Where?
from where was you were probably there, right?
Yeah, maybe Lyndhurst American.
Maybe I think I went with Eugene.
Okay, yeah.
Me it came from skateboarding, the whole skateboarding culture.
Right.
I was skateboarding in grammar school and high school. This is what you listen to,
right?
Yeah, no, went along with what we were doing on the streets.
Yeah, I think that was my other outlet too. Was when I started skating and hanging out with Costa and those dudes. Like he would just we would go to the mall and there would be a Sam Goody, but he would just steal tapes.
Right,
he would go in and he'd be like, "Oh, I got these three. What do you think? Which one would be good?" And he'd be like, "Put your hat out." And I would be like, "What?" And he would just shove them all on my hat.
See, this is where having a small head comes in handy because there's headroom to steal tapes.
Yeah, so that's why you always had like a fucking Scully cap with you because you could steal tapes with it, and that's how I found like he had gotten like some Pennywise tapes and Agnostic Front and stuff like that, and yeah, so that was the other way I found out about. But he never let me dub any of his shit. I would just have to steal it and go to his house and listen to it.
How rude.
I know.
Maybe that was his way of getting you to come over and hang out.
It's possible. I think I was he just didn't want to get caught.
Yeah.
I think it's what it was.
Yeah, because back in the day when you were actually physically copying me, the feds are really going to be able to track you down for that. Oh, he's got a bootleg REM tape in his pocket. Watch out for that guy,
dude.
He's got the sad songs on it.
He's got the sad songs. Go get that sad boy. Oh man. Sorry. Well, all right. So what made you want to then go from just being an observer or a listener to someone that that did it? Like, what made you think that you could, and what made you want to start writing your own songs?
So what made me want to start writing my own songs was the inability to be able to play other people's songs. So a lot of it, I mean, I learned how to play guitar, and a lot of it came from, part of me was convincing myself, well, I can write my own songs, and I'm doing it because I want to. But the other part of me, the reality was like, I wasn't good enough to play other people's songs. I mean, I'm like 14 years old. You try playing All Along the Watchtower. You know, I could squeeze those 6 chords of Wind Cries Mary out, no problem. But, you know, some stuff was really above my pay grade. So I started trying to write my own songs. And also, you know, I've always been creative. I've been creative since I was like a little kid. And it was an outlet that, because I love music so much, I just wanted to be a part of it. So I started writing my own songs, and you know, a lot of that, you know, I was showing you. And
do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I remember the first song I ever wrote. The first song I ever wrote, don't really know. I gotta go back. It'll come to me after I get home tonight. It's gonna come to me. I'm like, son of a bitch, that's what it was. But yeah, I don't fully remember what that first song was. I just kept writing, and I kept writing more and more songs, and I kept getting like a little bit better. A lot of it was like knocks of the things I was listening to,
right?
But a lot of it was, you know, it was me just trying to take whatever rudimentary knowledge that I had of playing guitar and singing, which I still can't really do, and just stretch it out and like writing lyrics and taking care of stuff that way. When I knew that I could do it too, right? I remember the exact moment. I was at Maxwell's, and it was Mr. T Experience and the Parasites and the Smugglers, and it was Valentine's Day. They did a Valentine's Day show at Maxwell's, and I was talking to the bass player of the Parasites at the time, and he was like 19.
Wow.
And I was like, you're only 19 years old? And he's like, yeah. And I think I was like 15 at the time. And I was like, but you're from California. Yeah. But you're in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm on tour. I was like, but you're only 19. Like,
is your mom here?
What is does your mom know? I mean, I actually asked him, does your mom know? And he was like, nah, dude, it's cool, man. Like, he's like, I'm over 18. I can do whatever the hell I want. And he was like drinking a beer, and he was all cool and stuff. And I was like, man, like, he's only 4 years older than me. Because, you know, at that point, you're looking at people in the records that you're listening to, and you're looking at people like on MTV, and you're looking at, you know, people at the shows you're going to, and you just know that everyone is at least 10, 15, 20 years older than you are. But to see someone who is, I probably could have went to high school with, if he got like left back one year, he might have. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't pass judgment, but I'm just saying. I
mean, if he was cool, he was.
If he was dead. I'm sure he got left back. He was pretty cool, man. But that was the thing. I just kind of sat there going, I can do this. I could put a band together, and I could go on tour. And a lot of my life has been just kind of making a decision, deciding I'm going to do something. I'm going to give it my all, and kind of just making things up as I go along. And that's kind of what I did. I mean, I went to school, and I grabbed you, and I was like, you're joining a band.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And you were like, yeah. He's like, I don't know about that. And then I just showed up at your house, and your mom let me in. She's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm John.
You do that a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I was like, your son's starting a band with me, and then you kind of couldn't say no.
That's exactly what happened. Because like I remember that first day you came over.
Yeah.
You came, and we went down in my basement, and you're like, oh, you can actually play chords and stuff. You can play guitar. And I was like, kinda.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, cool. Like, I'm gonna get us a gig, and then you left. That was it. Remember that?
And then I did.
Yeah.
And then we had to put a band together.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was scary as shit.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, granted, it worked out pretty good.
Oh no, God, thank God. Because honestly, like, I would have talked all that shit, like, oh yeah, I want to do this band, I want to do a band, I want to play a show, but I wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Like, I needed you to be like, oh, okay, so now this is our band. These are the guys that are in it, and we're playing next Thursday, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I, you know, no matter.
You can't teach that, by the way. Like, that's like a quality that you have.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know. I mean, that's I don't know if you must have been, it's just born with it, I guess, to like just have the balls to be like, hey, listen, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell me that I can't.
You know, I will tell you that getting bullied a lot as a kid definitely made me lack confidence in a lot of ways. And like, you know, I'm still working through a lot of stuff with that. Like, just, it sticks with you. However, the other side of it is, I hit a point where I'm like, well, like if people like think I'm shitty or if people think I'm like a piece of shit or like if people are just going to talk shit anyway, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want.
That's
and it's something that like I can't always harness, but when I do, man, I just kind of was like, well, fuck it,
like
man.
a laser beam.
It's a laser beam, and I just go to town, and then I just tell you, you're starting a band with me, and we're gonna figure this out on the
That's
fly.
fucking amazing, man. I love that.
And
because I feel like a lot of people are, maybe are dealing with that same thing where they're like, oh, I don't really fit in anywhere. I'm getting shit for just trying to be myself. I'm getting shit for trying to hide. I'm getting shit for no matter what I do.
Yep.
And you could either, that branches off into two ways. You either be like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want to do anyway because I'm going to get shit and either way.
Yeah.
Or you try to hide even more, and then you hate yourself so much that like, because you didn't do all the things that you wanted to do because people were telling you that you suck.
Yeah, I hit on the inside, but on the outside, I was like, "Hey, world, it's me."
Yeah,
and I just kind of went for like everything in my life. I've just kind of you hit that saturation point where you're almost like like that whole you're a teapot and just riling up, getting hotter, and finally you just got to scream, you got to let it all out. And for me, it was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna start this band. And it's like, well, I don't want to go to college. I'm gonna go on tour, and then I just did that, and then it's like, well, that didn't really work out. So now I have to figure something else out. So I'm just going to kind of do what I want until I figure out what my third act is.
Yeah.
And that's that.
To go back a little bit, I had one of those moments too where I saw somebody doing it and I realized that they were almost my age. And then it was like this holy shit moment of like, I remember we're at Warped Tour. We were together.
Right.
We're at Warped Tour.
We hung out a lot.
Yes, we did. Yeah. All of my defining moments, I feel like it was me and Hambone and probably Sean.
Yeah.
So we're at Warped Tour, like you do. It was in Asbury Park, breathing in lots and lots of dust, and it was a twofold that day. One, Humble Beginnings had won a contest or something and opened the tour, or opened the show rather, and they were a local band in Jersey. I think they were from maybe a little north from us, but like, they played VFW halls and all that shit. And all of a sudden they were on this major fucking tour. And it was like, holy shit. Like they're on a stage with like other bands that are huge, like NoFX and all of the stuff. And that was holy shit. Like one of us we can do this.
Right.
And then two was Anti-Flag played and Chris 2 just joined the band.
Right.
And I mean, I should probably text him, but I'm pretty sure he was like, maybe 17 or something like that.
Yeah.
And of course we were like, I was 13, 14, but it was like, holy shit, like this dude is on stage with a band that I love playing and he's not that much older than me. Like I can do this. Like, how do I do this? And then I turned to you and you were like, well, we're going to just do this.
Yeah.
Basically, that's how we do it. You just follow me, kid.
Yeah. So we're going a little long on this episode, so we're gonna.
Oh, we are. I'm sorry.
No, it's our show. We do whatever the hell we want. However, in order to be able to put them out monthly, we got to wrap it up so we can record another one. What we are going to do though is we're going to take a quick break and drink something weird that Frank brought us back from Chicago. We're going to talk about in the next episode. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Imagine that moment in your life where you see a kid your age doing it. Right? And you're like, shit, I could do that too. Imagine a lot of people out there right now who never actually do that. And then they get to be our age and they're looking back at those kids saying, I should have did it then.
Right.
So the thought I leave everyone with today is that we are truly lucky that we kind of followed the course that we did. Maybe it was unorthodox. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but man, it worked out pretty good for all of us.
Yeah. Thank God, man. Thank God for the people that took those steps and let us know that it was okay to be fucked up and young and follow your dreams.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know where I would be without the ones that I saw do it before me and the ones that gave me the push to fucking try it on my own as well.
Well, cheers to that. So join us next month for another episode of Casual Interactions. Until then, hold on to your friends.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Casual Interactions is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Stephen Blay.